All right, let's get into it. Today, we're going to be detectives. We're going to use Ian Watts's incredible book, The Rise of the Novel, as our guide to solve one of the biggest mysteries in literary history. We're investigating the origin of the novel. You know, that thing that pretty much dominates all storytelling today.
Think about it. For literally thousands of years, stories were all about gods, larger-than-life heroes, and big universal truths. You had your epics, your myths, your fables, and then bam! In the 18th century, something totally new just appears. And it wasn't just a new genre, it was a completely different way of looking at the world. So the big question is, where on earth did the novel come from?
Well, according to Ian Watt, the biggest clue to solving this whole mystery is a concept he calls formal realism. And this wasn't just some new writing trick. No, this was a revolutionary new lens for seeing reality itself, and it is the key that unlocks everything.
Okay, check this out, because this slide just nails the change perfectly. For centuries, art was basically like a statue. Its job was to show us these timeless, universal ideals. You know, the hero, the king, the saint. But the novel? The novel held up a mirror. Its goal wasn't to show us the ideal version of things, but to give us a faithful, nitty-gritty reflection of one person's real, messy, individual life.
So what exactly is formal realism? Let's break it down. It's a way of writing that's built on a pretty radical idea, that truth isn't found in some ancient myth or grand philosophy. Instead, truth is something that every single individual can discover for themselves, right here and right now, just by using their own senses. So, it just tosses out all those old recycled plots in favor of something way more ambitious, an authentic report of what it's actually like to be a specific person living a specific life.
But you know, a change this big doesn't just happen in a bubble. To really get why novels suddenly started being written this way, we have to look at the massive philosophical earthquake that was shaking up the 18th century. The novel wasn't just a new art form, it was the artistic symptom of a whole new way of thinking about reality itself.
And you can see the whole chain of events right here. First, you get Descartes, who comes along and says, "I think, therefore I am." And just like that, the individual's mind, not the church, not the king, becomes the starting point for all truth. Then John Locke doubles down, arguing that reality is only what we can see, hear, and touch, the concrete, particular details. So what happens in literature? Well, art stops telling stories about universal types and starts telling stories about unique, particular people. It's like philosophy was literally coming to life on the page.
Okay, so we've got our motive, this huge philosophical shift. Now let's get into the fun part, the forensic evidence. What are the specific telltale fingerprints that the novel leaves behind that make it totally different from everything that came before?
Here's the side-by-side breakdown. The old tradition, it just reused plots from history and myth. In fact, being too original was a bad thing. The novel, on the other hand, invents brand new stories, often based on everyday life. And the characters. Old stories had names that told you their whole personality, like Mr. Greedy or Sir Faithful. Novels give characters realistic proper names, like Robinson Crusoe or Pamela Andrews, just like real people. It's a total shift from focusing on universal archetypes to what makes one single person absolutely unique.
And this right here is one of my favorite pieces of evidence. The novel's obsession with time and space. Before this, stories took place in this vague, once-upon-a-time land. But the novel was the first art form to take the clock and the calendar dead seriously. Characters have birthdays, they age over months and years. And space becomes totally specific. It's not just a dark forest. It's a particular island with a specific geography that you could actually map. It all works to ground the story in a reality you can almost reach out and touch.
So, the theory is solid, right? But how did it actually look in practice? Let's open up a couple of the earliest case files, the pioneering novels that really put formal realism on the map.
Case file number 1. Daniel Defoe's Robinson Crusoe. Defoe's absolute genius was creating what you could call the memoir illusion. He didn't publish this as a made-up story, he published it as a true personal memoir, written by himself. And the way he pulls it off is by focusing on the mundane. He just catalogs everything. Every tool, every piece of salvaged wood, the weather each day. It's the sheer weight of all that specific, verifiable detail that creates this powerful illusion of total reality.
And for our second case file, we have Samuel Richardson's Pamela. Richardson uses a totally different technique to get to that same realism. He called it writing to the moment. He told the entire story through letters, which gives you, the reader, direct, almost real-time access to a character's inner world.
For the very first time, you could read a character's thoughts and feel their emotions at the very instant they were happening. This was a massive, revolutionary leap forward for psychological realism in storytelling.
So, we've looked at the scene, we've established the motive, we've analyzed the evidence. What's the final verdict? What is the novel really? Well, the conclusion is pretty clear. The novel is a brand new kind of epic. It's the epic of the individual.
And its legacy is just immense. I mean, look at this. You can see the logical conclusion of the novel's entire mission. If your goal is to give a true, authentic report of an individual's experience, well, where do you end up? You end up trying to report the flow of the mind itself. As Watt argues, that 18th century obsession with individual consciousness leads directly to 20th century modernist techniques, like the stream of consciousness you find in writers like Virginia Woolf and James Joyce.
So let's wrap it up. The novel's DNA is basically made of these four key things. Its definition? It's a truthful report of particulars. Its context? It grew right out of individualist philosophy. Its method? Using original plots, real names, and specific time and space. And its ultimate significance? It is the perfect art form for a culture that puts the individual front and center.
And I just think this quote says it all perfectly. The novel isn't just another kind of story. It's the primary literary vehicle for our modern world, a world obsessed with originality, with authenticity, and with the unique, irreplaceable perspective of every single person.
And that leaves us with one last thing to think about. This whole revolution happened 300 years ago, but you can see its aftershocks everywhere. In our movies, our TV shows, even in the way we tell stories about ourselves on social media. So the question is, how has this intense focus on a single person's journey, a focus that began with the novel, shaped the very way we think about and tell our own stories today?